Good morning, guardsmen. It's a lovely evening in my part of the world, and I finally found some time to do a impromptu video, which I was hoping to do for quite some time. It was motivated with a few newcomer questions in the Polish Epic Armageddon group, so I wanted to talk about my Orcish army, the units that are in it, the specific roles that they serve, and the tactics that are used. This is targeted mostly for the new players, for people who don't really know what works and what doesn't work. So I want to describe my army to give them a point of reference. I'm not saying that this is a particularly good army. It won me some games, it definitely lost me more than a few games, but I enjoy it. And it's pretty easy to run and pretty easy to make. With the introductions out of the way, let's jump into the army itself. I'll post a army composition list as an image on the screen right now. Let's start in the middle. This army is based on 2 big cults of speed, 14 scorchers and 4 buggies each. That's 800 points total of the 3000 point army list, because this is a 3000 point army list. Probably worth mentioning that sooner. These are the heaviest hitters. They can take a punch. They're composed of light vehicles, so you can't be as reckless as you would like, because they can get a punch, but the scorchers deliver quite a devastating blow. The 4 war buggies that are in each group are mostly to be able to put some shots at longer distances, because scorchers have only 15 centimeters range, and put some blast markers in future turns. Both scorchers and war buggies have a base movement of 35 centimeters, which means that they can basically get anywhere you want in round 1 in preparation for round 2. The plan is double somewhere behind terrain in round 1, and round 2 you want to assault or burn up your target. The interesting part is that this unit is going to function very well both against armor and infantry. You might think that scorchers are a mainly anti-infantry weapon, but if you use them in assaults, then they have a 4+ firefight, which means that they're hitting both armor and infantry by 4+. It's also worth mentioning that in assaults, the Scorcher doesn't have the ignore cover, so it's a bit of a bummer, but hey, it's quite good, so it has to be balanced by something. So to rewind, you ride up, put a blast marker. If you can fire the Scorchers, that's perfect. So wait a bit with these 2 units, since they're the most heavy hitters, you want to move them last. Wait a bit and fire up the Scorchers to burn your enemy. This is a glass cannon. It's gonna die if your opponent focuses on it, so don't let him. At least not in the first round, maybe not in the first 2 rounds, but it's there to do damage and basically die off, so it's not gonna survive. It's not its purpose. Its purpose is to wreak havoc, burn, and die. Next in line are the 2 blitz brigades with 2 flak wagons, 2 gun wagons, and one of each gun wagons is upgraded to actually contain a super zap gun. These are basically what you call a zap brigade. You have a powerful weapon on a gun wagon with 60 centimeter range. You have another gun wagon, which is there only to provide the extended range if you somehow get a blast marker. Because remember, blast markers stop from firing the units that are furthest away, but in range. Which basically means that if you get a blast marker, your active range is dropped to 45 centimeters thanks to the gun wagon. It also has a decent save, so that's also kind of a meat to save your Zap Boy, which is the most important part. And 2 flak wagons, which work as a mobile AA bubble, since this list doesn't have a lot of AA. They're basically meat for the grinder if you start getting hit with this particular brigade, which you definitely should not, since it's only 4 units. If it breaks, it's going to be really, really hard to get them back in line. Their main role is Titan killers. They should be focused on delivering devastating or killer, if possible, blows to enemy Titans. They're mobile, they can grab objectives, they can back a punch. They're pretty cheap, 200 points each. Not the cheapest of the units, but still, if you lose him, no great strategy is gonna happen. They're there to deliver blows and grab objectives. Hopefully not die, but if they die, meh, who cares. The last unit on the list is the Mechboy Stompa mob with an upgrade of the Super Blaster Stompa. In my particular army, this is a custom-made Gutripa Super Stompa. This unit is a bit counterintuitive because it's quite shooty, it's quite good, but I basically use them to, well, deliver blows if they can, because they have quite a nice range. I mean, the Super Blaster Stompa has quite a nice range of 60 centimeters. The Stompas themselves are also, of course, shooty Stompas. I never take the hand-to-hand versions of Stompas. They're too slow for that. And they have a decent range of 45 centimeters. The basic AP and AT of 5+ mean that you're gonna be hitting on 6s. Because you're always gonna double. Probably on 7s, because you're going to shoot at something that's in some kind of cover most of the time, so you're not really gonna hit anything. And there's only 4 units in that unit. The Super Blaster Stompa is a war machine, so its damage capacity 4 helps to keep it unbroken. The truth is, this is a nice unit, but it's mainly there to put in front so that your enemy has something to shoot to. You don't really expect them to deliver a lot. They're quite points-wise expensive, but they're really resilient. And they can take a punch. They can deliver a punch, don't get me wrong. If you can, then by all means. And the Super Blaster Stompa with the 3 super guns is a macro weapon with a blast template. So always a nice addition, but don't really expect them to do that much. They're a bit too small for having a super big punch, and they're quite pricey, so don't throw them recklessly. But if you need to block something or to just gather some punches from something else, then they're your team. Also worth mentioning that this is actually your Break Their Spirit objective. This is the most expensive unit in your army, so you want to block stuff with them, you want to fire them, but you definitely don't want to lose them, because that's going to grant your opponent a victory point in the end. Coming back to the middle of the list, we have the Stormboys Warhorde. It's just 6 stands of Stormboys. They don't have any kind of ranged attack, they only have a ability to assault with a nice 4+ close combat factor. They have the jump pack and the scout abilities. Jump packs really help them move along the battlefield. With a 30 centimeter base move, that's really nice. And they can basically get anywhere you want them to get. Scout allows them to spread around, to have a bigger zone of control and block your opponent's move with their bodies, if you need that. And you're able to deploy them early if you like, if you want, if you need. I wouldn't really recommend that most of the time, because there's only 6 of them and they don't really do much on their own. But if you see it as a win, if you see that as an opportunity, then by all means use it. The main goal of this unit is survive as long as possible, grab objectives, block movement paths, because they're a small unit. They're not really worth a shot. If you can spare it to a different thing, they can finish off some artillery or something that's behind enemy lines, because they can get there easily. But the most useful thing that they can do is provide crossfire for your bigger units. Just move them first, put them behind the bigger unit, then fire with the bigger units and enjoy the crossfire bonus. I had an opportunity to do that once. Well, more than once, but this particular one time was very devastating, where my warband assaulted 3 steam gargants, well, fired on 3 steam gargants, and actually were able to, thanks to the crossfire bonus, they were able to kill one and cripple another one. With orc shooting, that is a tremendous result. So crossfire really does the job. Above the Stormboy's warhorde is the orc warband. It's a standard orc warband, but expanded by 2 killer cans. They're what I call the filling of the landa. They're the warband that goes inside the landa. They usually drop either on targets of opportunity or the enemy blitz, and they devastate the thing that's on the blitz and take over, or try. Either that, or they go in and assault some kind of unit. That's the well, as I mentioned, target of opportunity. The killer cans could be substituted, replaced with 2 boys, which would also give you 2 additional grots units. I, however, prefer the killer cans because they have a macro weapon attack, so you're actually able to tackle something which has a nice juicy save. So that's basically the orc warband. I've mentioned that it's inside the landa, so let's talk about landa and confuse people even more. The role of the landa is to deliver the orc warband infill. Prior to having a target of opportunity, you want to fly by, do some ground attacks. Yeah, put a blast marker here and there, maybe kill something if able, but you don't want to lose it too soon, and you want this as a delivery mechanism. So the last warhorde formation of this army is the orc warband. I use it to house my warlord. I haven't mentioned him here because he can either go in the Landa warband or in this one. I preferred this one, but it's user's choice, right? So this is a typical orc warband, standard, expanded by a battle fortress, which is a very nice transport means for the warband. It has a additional odd boy with power fields, which further increases its lifetime expectancy because you get 1 to 3 power fields. They're not as good as the Imperial ones, but still that's something. You could switch that for a zap gun. I'm not really a big fan of blast guns, but you could do that also to increase the firepower. Although the battle fortress is there to take hits in an assault, to deliver the units to the battlefield quickly, and possibly to die. It's not really a heavy hitter in and of itself, and also expanded by a flak wagon so that it also has some kind of anti-aircraft availability. The goal of this unit is to get in an assault. It's pretty good in that. Orcs are pretty good at assaulting, as you could expect them to be. I had more than a few successes riding this up front and killing my opponent with an assault. Yeah, the name of my orc warband is actually God Smasher. The name of the warlord is God Smasher because he was able to actually assault some marines and a Catan and kill them. So yeah, it works. It definitely works. Last but not least, 2 units of fighter squadrons, 3 fighter bombers. They're basically either your last resort, where you really need something dead, but you really can't get to it, so you send in the fighter squadrons. There you have not the best, but also not the worst firepower. They are actually, in my games, they're actually known as steel bendas. They do tremendous things for a fighter squadron to do, but most of the time don't really expect them to do a lot. They're a very good tool. They are a very good tool to get rid of some artillery or to break a unit which just has 1 or 2 blast markers left. That's their main job. That's the basic rundown of my 3000 points Orc Warhorde list. As I mentioned, it's not a 100% winner for every time, but it does the job pretty good. I like this list, refined it a few times, and probably will refine it more once I have the time to play more games. I'm really interested in your opinions on this, so leave a comment below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye!